So we're here at the Yi River in Luoyang, China, overlooking the Longmen caves, which is one of the most major and important representations of Buddhism.
Yes, the site includes over 2,000 limestone caves and niches, which really portrays the Buddhist culture with its stone statues, inscriptions, and stupas.
And what's really fascinating is that each cave or niche contains a sculpture of a Buddha in many different forms and sizes, all created with different meanings, but a really significant and symbolic piece that caught my eye was actually the Fangxian Temple.
The Fangxing Temple, which you can see is highly elevated over the riverbed. It literally dominates the entire Longmen site.
Of course, we can clearly see that the Fangxian has very prominent high-relief sculptures of monks and bodhisattvas, all surrounding the earliest god known to the Buddhist culture, the Vairocana.
You can see the way the Vairocana really dominates and overlooks the other sculptures, from the way the Vairocana is bigger than the other figures, the prominent use of hierarchy of scale.
Not only that, but the idea of the Buddhist community is shown. We have the spiritual idea of supremacy of one god over another, and the human idea of power, of the ruler over others with the contrast in sizes. The importance of the Vairocana Buddha and the Buddhist religion and how he was the first ever Buddha is really emphasized.
Yes, and these ideas seem to be carried through to the other temples in the Longmen caves. Another main temple known as the Kanjin Temple we can see is on the East Hills. It was created from 690 to 704 CE by the patron Empress Wu and has
symbols of successful monks that are along the walls, which was placed to give a sense of realism. These monks were called the Arhats and were known in the Buddhist religion to be very capable of physical and spiritual acts, which is really significant as a temple and was dedicated to them.
See, these Arhats were very important. They helped spread the ideas of Buddhism and shaped it to be such a predominant religion during this time. Now notice how they are surrounding a center Buddha, which was supposed to resemble Empress Wu's Yixin, as this specific temple, after all, is her shrine.
And again, we see the idea of a god over the other, as the center Buddha is raised high on this pedestal, while the hearts and other figures are essentially lining the ground and lined up against each other. It's literally an audience in an arena watching over a very famous figure.
Exactly. The Bingyang Cave is very similar to that idea, actually. However, it's one of my favorite temples in the Longmen site because of its complexity and detail. It greatly differs from the other major temples. The ceilings are faded, however, we see remnants of red and gold paints and a very intricate nimbus on the center Buddha,
Who was also sitting on a lion, and lions in Chinese culture were known as guardians and representations of power.
Emperor Zhuan Wu actually commissioned this cave, dedicating it to his deceased father. So his wealth and interest in creating this cave is really being portrayed through all those details.
I feel it's also really astonishing how the significance of the cave and its connection to Buddhism is shown through the central Buddha, which is, as stated before, seated on a lion and is by disciple and two smaller bodhisattvas.
And bodhisattvas were beings in the Buddhist religion who helped others reach enlightenment through their own enlightenment. And the bodhisattvas are very similar to the central Buddha, however, the sizes are very contrasting.
Also, the walls and floor of this cave have low-relief sculptures which were crafted by Northern Way craftsmen that brought two art principles together.
So these were just some examples of focal temples and niches in the Longmen caves. The caves, however, greatly overwhelm the site. If you look closely at this image, really close, sweetie, put your eyes on the screen. A little closer. Alright, you're there. You can see the little high relief sculptures of Buddhas in each cave. What's very interesting about this is that we can see how immersed the society of the Tang Dynasty was in Buddhism, because each cave was created by and paid for.
Absolutely. And the wealthy donated an inscription that, told their motive for creating the cave, which I thought was very fascinating, how they could have their own different meanings behind the Buddhist figure in the cave.
Now, there's an obvious theme in each little cave and niche, this idea of a supposed higher and otherworldly figure or ruler, surrounded by many other figures who differentiate in size, as seen in the temples we mentioned earlier. And like you said earlier, the way that everyone was so involved with Buddhism during this period was a reason Empress Wu had to commission the Longmen Caves to be built.
Yes, and that's because during the Tang Dynasty, Wu Zetian was one of the most influential figures at the time as the Empress of China. And this concept was represented through the Vairocana statue. And this powerful Buddha, Empress Wu's power, the empire was very similar to Vairocana's influence over other Buddhas.
Exactly. The representation really intrigues me, and how it spreads the message of one being over another.
Empress Wu also wanted to find a way to truly immerse herself into the religion. To gain the respect of citizens during this time who were very reluctant on a woman ruler.
And theme is an important factor of just Chinese society in general.
So, Empress Wu is shown with so much power and grace, especially in the Fengxian temple, which we see the hierarchy of scales shown in the Vairocana sculpture of the temple, which also demonstrates the power of the emperor.
We can tell how much power she truly held. The way the Longmen Caves were elevated on a mountainside of the Ying River is truly a magnificent feat. Wu's status as an emperor greatly improved after the building of the Longmen Caves. She was viewed as a sacred ruler and someone who has what's best for the people.
My God, OMG, literally what I was thinking, exactly, oh my gosh, so true, yes, bye.
So overall, these ideas actually trace back to many earlier structures and ideas from other cultures and periods. Works such as the White Temple and Ziggurat from Sumer is actually very similar yet different to the Longmen Caves regarding religious ideas and art forms. Number 13.
White Temple in Ziggurat was created in Urk, Sumer, during a time where Sumerians worshipped gods on a very large scale. And you can see what the temple in Ziggurat used to look like in the digital reconstructions drawing.
So, the White Temple rests atop the Ziggurat, and it was essentially a shrine for the god, and they held rituals in this temple for Anu, the sky god, truly connecting a border from heaven.
Yes! And this idea was shown in the Longmen Caves as well. In Buddhism, they have a similar idea of heaven and earth. However, theirs extend beyond it, and their afterlife isn't limited to heaven and earth.
Exactly, and these ideas were connected to the Ziggurat, which was platform and rise for the White Temple to be seen.
Of course, and we see how the sides of the Ziggurat are slanted, getting skinnier at the top to shape it into a pyramid with a flat top, because the Ziggurat was a place for their gods to dwell in. By shaping the Ziggurat into this flat-topped pyramid, the whole structure really rose above the city of Uruk and was easily seen for everyone as a reminder of the gods they worshipped and honored, and also represented the political authority of their gods.
And the idea of the gods having a place to dwell in, the temple in Ziggurat, that is very identical to the Buddhas in the Longmen Caves, as they each have a little niche to reside in.
All this massive piece is just so incredible and had such a great impact on history.
Yes, boo, that's a wrap.